So I'm very happy now to introduce ETHMilan on stage.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about on-chain neobanks. Hopefully, by the end of this talk, you will know more about the meteoric rise of neobanks in traditional finance, how these cards work on-chain, an idea of where the market could go in the future, and have enough inspiration maybe to open a card for yourself if you haven't already. So starting with Revolut, started as a foreign exchange card for travelers looking to kind of decrease the foreign exchange rate from traditional banks. Today they have 70 million users, over 6 billion in annual revenue, and 1.7 trillion in 2025 transaction volume. Their customer growth is shown here on the chart with a noticeably strong uptake after COVID, presumably as the lives of consumers are moving more and more online. Now, the global neobank market is worth valued at 357 billion today, projected to exceed 5 trillion by 2035. That's nearly a 34% compound annual growth rate for over a decade. Now, the issue with most neobanks is that they simply run on traditional rails. The same correspondent banks, the same settlement delays, the same custodial model, simply a better experience through an app. Meanwhile, as we know, stablecoin supply has had its own growth story, despite the wider crypto market downturn. Now crossing over $320 billion on chain, with USDT and USDC making up over 85% of this supply. Red.Pay is strong proof that this is working, these on-chain neobanks. It was founded in 2023 in Hong Kong. Today, it processes over $10 billion in payments per year. They raised 194 million in 2025, and they have an IPO target set in 2026, or has been set this year, of over $4 billion. In November last year, the card volume was about 91 million, second only to Rain, which is a white label provider, giving access to lots of other providers. They were about 240 million. Cast is another name I should probably mention, and they've got some of their team here, I think. They spoke earlier. They were founded just 18 months ago. They have already crossed 1 million users and have about 5 billion in annualized transaction volume. So these new companies are making some serious steps in this area. Now, crypto card spending has been increasing rapidly in recent months. In November 2025, there was 406 million in monthly spend, the highest on record at that time. And now, just a few months later, in April, we've hit 650 million. Visa's stablecoin linked card spend alone has already reached 3.5 billion annualized run rate. That's over 460% a year-on-year growth. So we're going to see huge growth here, especially on the stablecoin link side. So crypto cards give users a feeling that they finally own their own money. And increasingly, the infrastructure is backing it up. You do not store your money with these neobanks. You simply use your money through them. Some of these protocols we'll talk about now are building the architecture that could really change banking as we know it. So, a user taps a crypto card at a coffee shop. What actually happens? Well, there are two distinct mechanisms in the market today. We have a fiat settlement. Traditionally, like you might have used in the past, some centralized exchange cards use this, and similar to a regular debit card, they essentially settle on the Visa network. And then we have the stablecoin settlement. These obligations are directly settled on chain in stablecoins, and both Visa and MasterCard have settlement programs here. In fact, Visa is actually a design partner of ARC, which is Circle's layer 1 blockchain, which is coming. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about Plasma as well, which supports more of the USDT side. Interesting to note that USDT is not accepted or a part of the two Visa and MasterCard settlement programs. However, it is usable through other settlement methods. Now, Visa to date has facilitated more than 100 billion in cumulative crypto purchases, whereas their cryptocurrency spending is about 25 billion. I expect we'll see these numbers converge as buying cryptocurrency is going out of fashion, but spending cryptocurrency or spending stablecoins is very much on the rise. They obviously cover a huge amount of the world, as Visa does, 150 million merchants and 14,500 financial institutions worldwide. So essentially, all these companies are having to do is plug into this Visa network and get access almost everywhere. Now, between these users and their kind of merchants sits two intermediaries. We have program managers like Bridge, Gnosis Pay, and banks. They manage card programs, but they don't have kind of a mentorship within the Visa network or the MasterCard network. Banks' Crypto Life product, for example, is one of these. They support MetaMask and Ledger with their cards. We then have the full stack issuers like Rain and Reap. You might have heard a lot about Rain in recent years. They have the direct membership to Visa, and recently, showing their insane growth, they just raised a nearly 2 billion valuation. Next, we'll explore some of these on-chain models, not inclusive to everything, obviously, and look through some of the design choices they made architecturally. And most of these choices are kind of setting the standards for a lot of on-chain neobanks to follow. So first, we have ETHFi. ETHFi accounts for about a quarter of all crypto card spending, 300,000 accounts, over 70,000 active cards. They have two modes, a direct pay mode and a borrow mode. That borrow mode is kind of the additional edge or niche or USP that we see from on-chain banks, as essentially they offer their clients something else on top that a traditional bank can't. So you can stake your liquid stake to ETH or another collateral asset and borrow against it to pay for whatever it is you want to pay with. Obviously, that comes with its own inherent risks, and you're going to have to manage those liquidation thresholds yourself. Importantly, like a lot of these on-chain banks, if ETHFi disappeared tomorrow, your funds remain self-custodied and accessible through smart contracts. Most of you, I'm sure, will be pleased to hear, if you are living in Europe, that Euro C Liquid Vault was just launched on ETHFi last week, providing yield on your euros and zero fee FX on euro payments. So looking a bit at ETHFi, we can see they actually reached an all-time high this week of 3.72 million in daily spend. That's over $1 billion annualized. So they're having insane growth. Currently, they're running at about 475 million cumulative. We're obviously going to see that grow quite considerably, it looks like. Surprisingly enough, ETHFi, you may know from their liquid staked ETH product, actually half of their entire revenue now comes from this cash product. So where ETHFi built a bank, Trio is building more of an operating system. Rather than competing with the likes of ETHFi on a standalone consumer product, they're building settlement and wallet infrastructure, allowing other crypto banks to come and build on top of them. They had a successful start, 500,000 users in 150 countries, and over $100 million to spend in their 4-month beta. However, since that beta closed, they're now running at about 12 million in monthly volumes. But as some of the talks mentioned earlier, especially the stablecoin panel earlier, it's not necessarily all about the core volumes that are happening. There may be small niche on-chain banks that want to deliver experiences in local regional hubs where this kind of infrastructure is perfect for them to be able to offer their users a product that is really valuable to them and actually makes sense commercially for that bank to run profitably. So Tria is trying to be on-chain or chain agnostic, sorry. You can hold your assets across many supported chains, and they are abstracting away lots of the bridging, swapping, and making everything gasless, essentially. They're also self-custodial and even have social recovery, so no private keys or seed phrases required on that side. Superform is more of a savings account. Think of it as like a piggy bank where you can access institutional grade yield, but completely passively. So they are doing yield aggregation on-chain with full on-chain verifiability. They have 180,000 depositors, over 180 million in deposits, and their protocol can access over 10 billion in TVL across 50 other protocols. So essentially, when you use Superform or deposit your funds in this kind of savings account, you can access all that DeFi has to offer. Huge range of strategies. I think they have over 1,000 vaults accessible, for example. Their edge is kind of around this super vaults pairing with smart accounts, meaning that yes, every position is fully verifiable on chain. And you can verify where your money sits, whether on a Morpho, Euler, Aave, Pendle, whatever. And this is really, again, quite a competitive edge compared to what happens in a bank when you see a 2% savings and what they actually do with your funds. Plasma 1. So Plasma takes a vertically integrated approach as a whole. It's building its own layer 1 with a native Tether integration. Plasma has gone for controlling the whole stack. Essentially, the consensus mechanism of the chain, the stablecoin infrastructure, a curated DeFi ecosystem, which is not just permissionless, and obviously the card settlement layer. They're currently offering 10% yield in, I think that's paid in XLP as well, XPL, and a 4% cashback. So again, cashback is huge incentive for new users, and especially bringing on kind of off-chain retail capital on-chain through these sorts of programs. And maybe you might see Plasma 1 advertised in your local areas soon. They're launching properly next month, rolling out, but they have been open for a private beta for a little while. So all four models really converge towards the same banking principles. They're trying to allow users to save, spend, earn, and borrow, but they're all essentially arriving from very different places, very different team origins, and different architectural decisions. So on-chain banks eliminate counterparty risk, but they do introduce new risks, like smart contract risk. This kind of sums up the decisions that consumers might have to make. On the one hand, a user is no longer exposed to the balance sheet of a bank. You're not going to have your funds rehypothecated, frozen. You're not going to be at risk of a bank run. However, you are exposed now to code vulnerabilities, Oracle manipulation, bridge exploits, and the consequences of your own errors as well, which can be catastrophic. So for sophisticated users, I would say, maybe like yourselves in DeFi, this is arguably a better product than a lot of what traditional bank offers. However, for the average consumer who expects a bank to step in at various times when things go wrong, on-chain banking maybe is not ready for such a thing. So the gap between DeFi's transparency and traditional banking safety net remains quite wide. I think we'll probably need to see some more abstracted experiences as well as more security and insurance measures coming to really build up and shore up what on-chain banks are trying to achieve before we see widespread adoption. But along that way, as I mentioned earlier, we'll probably see these small niche segments of smaller on-chain banks servicing particular geographies or regions, or targeting them at least. So I'll leave you with 3 key forecasts we have that you should keep an eye on. Stablecoin supply set to hit $4 trillion by 2030. That was from Citi. That's over a 10x from what we have now in just the next 4 years. Crypto card volume due to hit between $50 and $100 billion That's based on the current trajectory we're actually on by 2 years' time. And then the global neobank market to hit 5 trillion. Again, more than a 10x by 2035, so in the next 9 years. No doubt this will be an area of extreme growth, as we're already seeing, and there's huge opportunity to disrupt legacy banking and onboard consumers seeking better user experiences, more yield, the offering of cashback, these sorts of things. So, you can read more of our research on X, on our blog, and hopefully I've inspired you to try out a crypto card today.